dose of reason in a world gone mad. I'm your host, Seth Holhouse. I feel so lucky because, as the host of the show, I get to pick the brains of a lot of really, really intelligent people. And it just so happens that this show has turned into a show where one of my core topics is health, which I again feel so grateful for that because I get to talk to people that are on the cutting edge, on the forefront of health, and not just how to be healthy, but exposing the dark and demonic agendas of big pharma and helping to free us from all the psychological operations that create this fear response that we're scared of cancer, we're scared of aging, we're scared of this, we're scared of all these things. And the beautiful thing is when you start to remove all of that fear and everything, you start realizing that, wow, God made me perfect in his image, and the body has these amazing ways of healing itself and so much more. And so I just finished the interview with Dr. Diane Kaiser, and maybe you've come across her. I first heard of her, her on a SGT report. Amazing woman, and what she brought to the table in today's discussion, I feel like I just understood this secret of the human body that I never understood before. And so a lot of our show is discussing peptides, and maybe you've heard of peptides. I've heard of them before. I've tried them in the past, only for a very brief stint, and I never quite understood them, and I kind of stayed away from them. But in this discussion with Diane, I learned stuff that I never knew. I learned about the role of peptides, and they're mind blowing. Actually, like I'm so excited to go upstairs and talk to my wife and say, listen to what we just learned about, talking to Diane, because there's so much information that you're going to get out of this interview, and I'm so excited to share it with you. And anyway, I'm still a little bit kind of riding on this excitement and this kind of, whoa, look at this type energy right now. So anyway, I'll just go ahead and we'll jump right into the interview. I think you're going to absolutely enjoy it. So again, here's my guest, Dr. Diane Kaiser. Enjoy. It's about an hour and a half long interview. We went deep into a lot of things, into health and healing and big pharma and the power of our body. But it's also a little bit of like a peptides 101, which will hopefully be really enlightening to you. So please enjoy the interview. Dr. Diane Kaiser, it is such an honor and a pleasure to finally have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Seth, it's a pleasure. I love your work and I love your people. It sounds like we're all in the same family. So I'd love to start with that too, is we're all soul family and we're all here looking for the same solutions and on team human. So I'm here to be
Yes.
team human with all of you guys.
It's perfect. It's funny because, as I was saying before we started recording, my wife's been telling me for, gosh, over a year. She's like, Seth, you got to have Diane on, because she listens to SGT a lot, which I do as well. And she's like, oh, I just listened to this thing on this, and you got to have her on. And then anyway, so here we are. We're finally doing a show together. I think it's going to be the first of many, many shows. And it's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Oh, likewise. I really, really appreciate the work that you do. I love the fact that you're not your energy right now, and this is what we need so much of, is your energy is very calming to the nervous system. And what I notice about you and the guests you have on and the conversations is it's not a bunch of fear porn to get latched onto and rev up the nervous system and then need to calm down with anti-inflammatory over the counters that are more toxic for you than people even realize. So half of this whole battle, this whole journey, this game we call life, is our mindset and how we respond and react to the information that we're given. So you're bringing a lot of truth, but without that low vibrational fear energy. So it's really an honor to be here with you.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's funny because sometimes I meet people at events and everything, and one of the most common recurring things I'll hear is these people. Typically, it's funny. It seems to be women in their probably 50s, 60s, 70s that will come and be, Seth, you're my hero, and I love meeting all these people. And but so commonly, I'll hear them. They'll tell me, sometimes if I'm really stressed out, I'll put your podcast on just so I can fall asleep. It's like
You are
that's.
ASMR. You know what that is, right? ASMR.
eh,
ASMR. You're gonna have to listen to that. ASMR is when people get like a microphone and they tap into it and talk really lightly and gently. Or it's hearing sounds of like the vacuum cleaner and blow
Oh, I
dryers.
see.
Yes, there's many voices out there that I do the same thing with. I'm like, okay, I can't fall back asleep. I'm gonna go listen to so and so. So yeah, you have that ASMR voice. And so when you hear more about that, you're gonna be like, man, I'm listening to myself to fall asleep now.
How funny.
That's a
Well, I
big
mean,
compliment.
look,
Very big.
I mean, this is, we could do a whole show on this, but like my wife's a musician and she's done extensive research into the power of sound and healing, and actually even the power of music. So what's interesting is that even the Chinese character for medicine, the root character is music. So like they knew, right, as an ancient civilization, that sound is healing. And so even the frequency of our voices and what we're talking about, like even this in itself is part of healing, right? So anyway, it's I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with this discussion
Oh, it's that
today.
I say that all the time. I'm so excited that you just said that. I say that all the time is that we all need to slow down and use everything consciously. Like if we're in a hurry and we're unconscious, then we're under a spell based on the way that we've been taught to speak and how we spell out our language, our words can be the spells that have been casted upon us for our whole life. And I talk about the 10 prison bars. And the very first understanding is to how do we get here? Well, it's the programming, it's whatever terms you want to call it, the MK Ultra, the Tell Live Vision, the Rockefeller Orwellian medicine that started 100 years ago that we've all been taught, talk to your doctor if you have a symptom. And then you're not taught, listen to my body. Listen to the whispers or the screams, if you haven't been listening to the whispers of your body. And if you're listening to it, it is an instrument, it is a frequency, it is a vibration, it is Tesla and all of the different realms that we've been taught that energy, frequency, and vibration is the future and the now and the past of true healing. And if we can use our voice as an instrument, this is how we can elevate everything, our energy, our frequencies, so that we could all rise all of the boats so that the tides are combined and unified. So what do you want to do? Do you want to repeat what you've heard on the internet or some fear headline that you heard, but there is no validation and there's no backing on? Or do you want to be a voice and an instrument of healing? And that includes being a voice and an instrument of healing to yourself. And that's where it starts.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's amazing that, when we first started, it was really my wife and I that created Man in America, and we didn't
Mm.
set out to do this. It was just, I think this is where we were being led, and this is God's path for me to do this. But it's amazing that fundamentally what we're doing is just having conversations. And so for someone
Yeah.
to be able to, be struggling and pop in an earphone and listen to two people have this conversation, and because they can sense even the energy between us, right? They can feel that what's happening in the conversation, but also it brings them into it. And something I've been really intentional with the podcast is I used to always say, ladies and gentlemen and folks, but now I talk to one person and I say,
Yeah.
how are you doing? Thank you for listening today. Because it's like, well, actually, even though I'm always looking at teleprompter, right? And I'm not speaking to an audience. I'm thinking, okay, wait, I'm always going to be speaking to one person, to the one person listening, because I want to. Like,
Mhm.
that's my goal, is to reach as many as people as possible with these messages. That I think a lot of what you represent is that we don't need to live in fear. We don't need to fear the C word, right? The cancer word, or fear all these things that we've been taught that we have to fear, and that the only solution is to get this frightening diagnosis and then go to your lab coat indoctrinated doctor that is going to sell you the latest pharmaceutical concoction that will most likely kill you or poison you or require even more pharmaceuticals to balance out the poisons they put into you. And before you know it, your pancreas is failing, your livers are failing, your liver's failing, your kidneys are gone, and you end up, dying in a hospital bed. It's like, that's not how God wanted us to live. And the human body is amazing. And I think that this process of the Great Awakening, what's amazing about it is, I think fundamentally we're realizing that we're created in the image of God. Like that is so profound. Like, and the elites that we're up against, like, they think that God is the enemy. I think that's their greatest downfall, is that they've underestimated our greatest strength. And so the more we can tap into that, I think that just the potential is unlimited. So anyway, it's yeah.
And you just actually pulled two words together, which is the theme of our conversation today, is that we're here to talk today about, I mean, a lot of different things, obviously, but how can you take your power back and cut the tether and codependence? That's the bad C word, is codependence, or pedestalizing anybody outside of you to do the job that only you can do. I'm not saying that you need to be a doctor, but I'm saying when you work with people like either myself or a ministry or a doctor who really is in practice in the trenches, seeing what's really happening with people today and how hard it can be and how lonely and how frustrating and how overwhelming it could be to try to get to a place where you feel like you have, this great awakening. It's not just awakening of our mind, it's awakening our cells, it's awakening our organs, it's awakening our tissues and our tendons and our endocrine glands to go, oh yeah, God made this in me. And now I remember. Now my organs can remember how to release insulin and utilize it properly. And instead of storing glucose in our liver or our tissues and then getting diabetes and going, oh, well, now it runs in the family. We realize that we're no longer a victim of our environment. We are a victor of our temple. So the great awakening is what's happening in every cell of your body. And that's what we're here to awaken. And so that way you realize that you have a lot more power than you even realize. And so that's what we want to give you. We want to give you the power back that you can empower your body to do what it was designed to do. It's simple.
Exactly, exactly. So while there's probably about 10,000 topics that we can be diving into, I know that
Yeah.
we've structured today's show about around peptides, and this is something that to kind of share my own personal story is that I knew nothing of peptides until maybe a year and a half ago, and I was with a family. I was actually, I think it was a Reawaken event, and I was with my contacts there, and they were talking about peptides, and I was like, peptides, and they had all lost a bunch of weight, and I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, this is you've collectively lost 100 pounds as a family, and they're already, pretty healthy people already, but they're looking great. And so they're like, oh, actually, like, we're using peptides. And so I got a hold of Dr. Mark Sherwood, right? And because I've met him and bumped into him a lot. And anyway, so I ended up, he helped me figure out like a plan with a semaglutide, right, for
Mhm.
weight loss. And I took it for maybe a month or so, and it was great, right? And it was like it was injectable, and I was surprised at how like it's like you don't even feel it, like it's almost like acupuncture, right? But then
Yeah.
all the stuff about Ozempic started coming out. Yeah, exactly. There you go. So all the
Tiny little.
information about Ozempic started coming out, and I got really worried. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like is this is what I was taking? Is that the same thing as Ozempic? Am I injecting Gila Monster stuff into my body? So I kind of stopped and I threw them away, and
Yeah.
I hadn't even looked back on it. But then I listened. You were recently on with Sarah Westall, who's a friend of mine, and I listened to it, and I was like, oh, there's something different about this. So anyway, I'm coming to you as a person that knows a little bit about this, but I think I know maybe 1%. So let's just start from the very foundation of what are peptides. As if I'm a new student in your class and you're teaching me, what are
Mhm.
peptides?
Yep. Okay, great. So we can start with slide number 5
Okay, let me pull
and
that
then
up.
go from there because this is where I'm describing what are peptides. And I want to also get into the conversation of just exactly what you said, Seth, because we have to suss out the difference between big pharma and what we're doing in alternative medicine, natural medicine. This is called regenerative medicine. And so before we even get into this, I want you all to know that just like Seth said too, I'm a very humble person. I do not like to be pedestalized. I want you all to know that I've been in so many similar places that you have. I've been injured by big pharma a lot. I'm not going to say I'm a victim, but I'm saying that everything I'm going to talk about today is because of my own demise and diseases and feeling like I was gonna die. I mean, I made a movie called Dying to Be Beautiful with David Icke. And I was approached by the Ikes because I went through the whole toxic beauty realm and had breast implants and I was doing Botox and I've never felt so terrible in my life. And I was on prednisone multiple times. And here I am, like this holistic health alternative practitioner doctor going, if I can't help myself, who am I going to help?
Hey, real quick, If you drink coffee and you care about supporting a small business, you've got to check out Blackout Coffee. This isn't your average weak sauce corporate coffee. Blackout Coffee is roasted right here in the good old US of A by people who stand for faith, freedom, and hard work. They support our troops, the Second Amendment, and everything that makes this country great. They've got everything from whole beans and ground coffee to convenient pods and even instant coffee. Two standouts. So the Morning Reaper, a smooth and bold medium roast that's perfect to start your day. And if you like it strong, go for Brutal Awakening. Their darkest roast, it's loaded with caffeine. And here's the deal. You can get 20% off your first order. Just head to blackoutcoffee.com/maninamerica and use the code MANINAmerica at checkout. That's blackoutcoffee.com/maninamerica. The link's in the description. Ditch the woke coffee brands and fuel up with something real. Blackout Coffee. Wake up with purpose.
And so I felt insecure, powerless, and I was in my own, am I going to get better worry. And the breakthroughs that I had were understanding what things block our peptides. I didn't really know how to explain it back then, before I wrote my book and everything. But that is the main thing that we're going to talk about today, is that peptides are the very bridges that, and then also electrical signals, the miracle molecules, I call them, that can signal from your cells to the tissues of your body, to your bones, to repair and regenerate and make collagen. So I like to say that, the three B's is what most people are after. I want to regenerate my body, my beauty, and my brain. That could be your booty too, if you want to build a butt, or if you want to build your muscles and feel like you can look like you're 30 years old at 60 if you want, literally. So we'll get into peptides now. So I just wanted to first start that like, that's me. And I've done a lot of things. I've done a lot of things wrong. And so this is all not me preaching like, oh, I've been doing peptides forever. I'm just like you. Okay. So I've had many, many failures. And because I've had so many failures, I have a lot of successes to share now. And I've worked with tens of thousands of patients all around the world for 15 years, have been doing peptides for a long time. I wrote my thesis about it in college. So just wanted to start with that. So let's get into peptides. And so that slide that you were just on, Seth, and then also you guys probably know that Bobby Kennedy was talking about making peptides more available, talking about not suppressing them anymore. Although there's some things that he's been talking about lately that I don't like, and a lot of people are questioning. Whatever, that's beside the point. Right now, we're going to talk about peptides. So peptides are, speaking of language, right, Seth, and spelling and taking ourselves and demystifying and despelling from how we've been taught to think that you're sick, go to your doctor, get a medication, get petroleum-based medications, get cancer from the petroleum, which is in most medications today, because that is a xenoestrogen. And instead, what are all the alternatives? Instead of turning over here and saying, talk to your doctor, your medical doctor, maybe you can turn over here and say, okay, Diane Kaiser, she's a doctor, so maybe I could listen to her and just start to hear and feel how what I'm about to share with you today with Seth, how does it feel through your body? How does it feel through your cells? Does this make sense? Does it feel right? And if that is the question that you have a yes to, then you're going to resonate with a lot of things I'm telling you. And I hope that you take action today with at least one thing, all right? So peptides, speaking of music, speaking of language, are the language of our cells. So think about we all have these things called cellular devices, right? This is how we talk to each other. Your cells inside of your body is how they talk to organs, your brain. Your cells communicate from your gut to your brain to say, hey, we're full. We don't need any more food. Or we're full. We've got enough nutrients. We don't need anything else. Or, oh God, there's chaos. Somebody just ate canola ingrained with sugar and tons of carbohydrates, processed foods, artificial flavors. This is the majority of Americans today, right? The gut goes, we need 17,000 firefighters down here now. And the brain goes, okay, let me try to send cortisol to put the fires out. Let me send some adrenaline to calm things down, or at least to give someone the energy to calm things down. Your brain is constantly communicating to your endocrine glands to release hormones. Eventually, at some point, we get what some would call adrenal fatigue, and then we're tired. It has nothing to do, your adrenals don't wear out. Your thyroid doesn't just randomly get sick because your mom had some sort of disease. It's because your cells are no longer producing the mitochondria, the energy to communicate, orchestrate healing. and orchestrate growth of tissues and to regenerate things like the gut. Autoimmune disease today is born from a leaky gut. And autoimmune disease will never be fixed by medication. It will be fixed when we're talking about things that can repair and regenerate the tissues that have been inflamed from the toxins that we've been exposed to for our whole life. So we are just made up of peptides. And I want to talk about a little bit about where they are in the body, but I wanted to give you a chance to reflect on any of that first, Seth.
Well, so just to make sure that I'm following you from how I understand it is that fundamentally it's like peptides are the signals, the cellular signals that go from, like, if I was to call your cell from this cell, the peptides are the communication that are used to go from cell to cell. So if your brain is, say you sprain your ankle and there's a response that your brain has, right? Okay, your brain then receives that information. It's like, okay, part of my body is injured. Firefighters or police or whatever's needed, that the peptides are what allow your brain cells to communicate that message down to your ankle area, or to your heart to, say, pump more blood to that region for whatever reason. Is that a basic understanding that's correct?
Yes, exactly. And if you go to slide 16, I'll show you some actual numbers on this, that it blows people's mind when they start to understand that we are just made up of peptides. We're made up, our whole body is made up of peptides. And so peptides they're basically chains of amino acids, and different peptides can be shorter or longer or different versions, different sequences. And so many have heard of course, the ones that people have heard of are like Ozempic. That's not a peptide, it's a peptide plus other things, and we'll get into that. BPC, thymosin alpha, those are very common ones. You might have heard of copper peptides. That's very common in the beauty industry, right? But it's not just for beauty, so we'll get into that too. But peptide therapy is a very precise molecular tool that we use to target different patients that we're working with, or different people who are in our ministry that come and they're like, I can't afford to be a patient, but I want to learn how to do this myself. So we meet everybody where they're at. You don't have to come see me. Gone are the days where you have to go see a doctor and have it injected into you, or there's various ways to get peptides in your body. But humans actually make 300,000 peptides a day exogenously, without, or endogenously, without needing them exogenously. Endogenously means that we make them on our own. And 7,000 of them are in research now. That's always increasing too, everybody. And 40 of them are currently used clinically. And then, like I say, increasing by the day, because I'm always researching the new ones that are coming out. It doesn't mean that they're new to our body. It just means that they are new, that we can actually use exogenously, which is different. So peptides, they actually modulate the system, like you were saying, Seth, compared to pharmaceuticals. Huge distinguishing discernment important to understand here. Pharmaceuticals force a response by overriding the system, essentially saying, oh, your check engine light's on. Let's just turn it off with some anti-communicate, like I mentioned earlier. If you're on any kind of steroid medication, or if you're taking medications to turn off your immune system, then those are the ones that basically say, no, we don't really want to hear the messengers that your body is saying, hey, something hurts down here. It's basically saying, let's just cut the cord on the engine light. Let's put some tape over it. So that's what a lot of people are taking now these days, is especially in autoimmune disease when there's pain. I'd rather say, hey, what is your body trying to say? What does it need? What is it deficient in? And how can we activate it to do its thing again, so that we don't lose an organ or lose tissues or lose your life? I mean, these peptides they're signaling molecules that are miracle molecules, because when we use them, they only work in the areas where they're needed. And that's what allows for us to help people with targeted approaches, no matter what it is that they have. And they enhance the body's natural signaling molecules. They have minimal side effects, because we're not taking like a human growth hormone. So even if you wanted to take a human growth hormone, it'd be like $3,500 a month from your doctor. We work with human growth hormone, what's called secretagogues, that remind your body how to release them from the tissues and the organs and the glands that your body makes them from. So we're just simply reminding it and reactivating your body to do what it remembered to do a long time ago. We're revitalizing your body. It's really truly an awakening process. And they metabolize very quickly, which reduces long-term toxicity. So people are like, oh, what are the long-term side effects? And I say, well, there's really none, because they're targeted short-term interventions and they restore your cell's natural function. So when we do that, then you can get off of them. contrary to what's happening with things like Ozempic and semaglutide. That's what it's made of. So Ozempic, and we can get to another slide on that too, Seth, but did you have any questions on that specific slide that we were just
Well, so
talking about?
basically, I love these conversations because part of what it is that like we've been indoctrinated for generations, right? Not just my generation, but going back to, I think a lot of it was really turn of the century, right? As Rockefeller came in, the Industrial Revolution, and so part of what I've been going through in this process of being able to meet and talk to people like yourself is figuring out what are my notions that I have mentally. What is the framework that I've built about how the world works that is wrong? And that's actually the hard thing, I think, is that it's easy
Mhm.
to find new information and be like, oh, like there's this Epstein list, and oh, okay, oh, I see how blackmail works. And you can start to put together these pieces of how the world currently works. But I think what's really difficult is to actually reprogram our own operating system that we've been programmed with really since birth, because our parents are programmed by it, their parents are programmed by it. And I think especially as it relates to health and medicine, that the pharmakia, the spell binding and the poisoning that's been used against us has created a false operating system. And so I love these discussions where it's like getting you talk about parasites. It's like, oh my gosh, why aren't doctors talking about parasites in America? Like every other culture is doing parasite cleanses, and why aren't they talking about parasites? And it's like, oh, because it's not part of the medical industrial complex, right? And so this is what's interesting with this is what I'm gathering is that there's this language our body uses to communicate cell to cell, and this language is peptides. And so I'm sure that untold amounts of functions in our body are carried out through peptides to bring that communication. And so what I'm seeing,
Yes.
understanding with this is that understanding peptides is actually learning how to understand that language, and then how to amplify certain messages, how to reignite certain messages, but also how to turn off certain messages that have been programmed wrong. Like, so I'm sure that a lot of the environmental toxins, everything, are probably damaging how our peptides are being used. So I imagine that
Yes.
various peptide treatments are like, a helping to strengthen certain peptide communication that our body should be doing naturally, but it's been inhibited. Or perhaps there's been other peptides maybe that have been um, hyperactive because of poisons and everything that need to be toned down or controlled better. And so, anyways, what I'm doing is I'm helping to reprogram how I understand this overall discussion. It's like, oh, so peptides are not this injectable drug. It's actually learning how to bring in how to augment and help this language. So is that, am
Yeah.
I on track with this?
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think it's kind of cute to think about it like a little kid. It's like putting training wheels back, like let's say you have an injury, and you want to learn how to ride a bike again. It's like putting training wheels on a bike and learning how to ride a bike again. And so it's frustrating because so many people today are so tired or injured and they can't work out, they can't exercise. And so they're like, yeah, I want to lose weight. Yeah, I want to stop eating the crap that is advertised on TV and is everywhere in the middle of the stores and the grocery stores. And it's super tempting. And all of those are designed to get you addicted to food. And so most people feel very powerless to, yeah, everybody's telling me just to stop eating crap and stop eating so many carbs and eat more protein and sleep more and drink more water and exercise. But you know what? I'm exhausted and I just want to escape from my day. I just want a glass, never mind, I want a bottle of wine. I need to escape from this day. And so I work with so many patients that I'm like, I get it. I get it. I'm just like you. And when I started the peptide journey, I found that I'm like, wow, there's more chips that I didn't eat. And of course, I don't buy like the junk food chips. I'll buy the plantains or whatever because they're crunchy. I'm more crunchy than the average person, but once I started doing the peptides, my mood shifted. And when your mood can shift and your brain can shift and your memory comes back on board, then you can start exercising and moving again. You start to feel like yourself. You don't feel defeated anymore. And actually, one of the slides I prepared today, I don't remember which slide it is, but The food industry right now, Seth, because of GLP-1s, and we'll suss out Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro. I am not by any means saying go take those. I am saying that the backbone of what is added to the peptides, the semaglutide, which you mentioned earlier, the tirzepatide, and my favorite's the retatrutide, which is a triagonist. We'll get into that later. We see a lot of people who are on retatrutide or other things that we can work with our patients on to stimulate metabolism, to calm down the cravings, it's slide number 33 is the food industry one, Seth, and I'll get into it right now. Because of what we're doing naturally and peptides that you can purchase on your own at home, you can get retatrutide for $100 a month versus having to pay a compound pharmacy, which is actually being heavily regulated and restricted now, reduced access because the FDA, they can do that. You'll pay $1,200 to $1,500 a month for what you would instead pay $100 for to do it on your own, which is truly amazing. So this right here, we're finding that GLP-1 drugs, and so this again, peptides we're talking about today are not drugs. They are explicitly peptides without all of the additional toxins that make the prescription GLP-1s way more dangerous to people. So they're two totally different things. It's like saying insulin came from cinnamon. Metformin, a lot of these things that have been replicated from Mother Nature, and then we have the toxic version of it that is pharmaceuticals that stole the DNA backbone of it and then sold it for thousands of times more, right? So this is the difference. So the peptides is more of the natural versions. They are synthetic. They are made in a lab, but they are made it exactly to intend for our body to go, oh, I know what that is. Because you cannot take peptides from nature in the amount that we would need them to in the body. So that's important to understand too, why we do it the way we do it. What's really cool about what's been happening, not necessarily in the pharmaceutical world, but also in just the peptide space, because these cells are being signaled, we're full down here. It slows gastric emptying. We do it the right way. GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic are set to shake the global food industry. And I'd like to take that headline and put it into the naturopathic space, because I'm a naturopathic doctor, and say that GLP-1 peptides like retatrutide, which is one that I have right here, and this is what it looks like when it comes into your home. Peptides like retatrutide are completely demolishing the D in the F in the FDA industry. So there's food and drug industry, right? Food is specifically carbohydrates, junk food, processed food. Demand for it based on the dollars that they're seeing is actually, the demand is down 8 to 10%. That's a
Interesting.
huge market collapse.
Oh, it is. Well,
And
so, oh, go ahead.
yeah, and that's huge for if we see parents and they're buying less of this junk food, then now we are impacting the next generation. Because now maybe the kids are looking at their parents, go, oh, my parents don't eat the crazy food portions that they did before. They're not eating late at night. They're sleeping better. And we know the obesity crisis isn't just about, like I said, exercise more, eat less. The obesity crisis is that we are now finally taking control of the food cravings because of my favorite one, retatrutide, and I have other ones too. But that's my favorite because it works on fixing your metabolism and increasing satiety and actually working with your pleasure centers so that these types of junk foods no longer bring you pleasure.
It's so
What's the point?
interesting. So I'll give a little bit of my background. So I've always struggled with weight. When I was 15, I weighed about 250.
Wow.
And so I was, yeah, so I was, I was a fat kid, right? I think I was wearing size 38 pants. I think I was approaching 40, and this is, early in high school. So I got picked on, and it's actually what helped me build my disposition, because I realized, like, well, I'm not going to win over the ladies with my physique. So I'm just going to be so nice and kind and honest that they're all going to love me anyway. And so that was my mechanism, right? To become like the happy, the funny guy. And thankfully I'm happy that I developed those patterns, my behavior, because it's really who I am now. But in my adult life, like right now, I think right now I weigh 210. And, I've added a lot of muscle. I do a lot of, lifting, and I exercise, but I've probably got a good 20 pounds of body fat that I don't want. And it's been such a struggle. I mean, when I was 15, I weighed about 250. By the time I was 17, I was down to 185. So I
Mm.
went, kind of Atkins, style, but cut out all carbohydrates. I was eating a lot of, except for fruit, I had a lot of fruit still, meat, kind of. So I managed that, but I was also working out a lot. But what I found is that, like, my wife, who's always been healthy, and she's, since childhood, she's eaten healthy. When she looks at a spread of food, she goes straight for the vegetables and some meat. But for me, I'm programmed to go straight for the bread, the pasta, the potatoes, the sugars. And even if I'm eating healthy, and I've done so many juice cleanses and master cleanses and liver cleanses, and I've done, ketogenic diets, I've done carnivore, I've done all these different things. But what I find is that I still, it's like that monkey hasn't left my back, and there's still that part of me, especially after like a long day. And, again, I've got a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old, which sometimes it's a long day. That there's that part of me. It's just like, well, I'm not a drug user. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke pot. So the one thing, it's like, well, I'll go grab some of that ice cream, right, at 11 o'clock at night, or I'll eat some chips and some hummus. But I've found that, like, my body is still wired the way that my system was set up when I was young, and I haven't been able to change that, and that's why it's been such a struggle for me.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, and this is where peptides can be the override, which is what's so beautiful about this. And what my big message is when I hear people say things like that, or, I have different people, different walks of life, different programming, different upbringing, and different goals. And so right now we have people who are like, I've got 5 pounds of that stubborn belly fat. And, who am I to complain about just 5 pounds when there's people out there who are really sick? And I'm like, hey, it's fine. And we can get rid of it very quickly. It's no big deal. Like, stop shaming yourself for having a goal, right? It's one thing if it's obsessive compulsive, or if it's what I call beauty dysmorphia or body dysmorphia. I want you to feel good first, right? If you can actually feel good as an overweight person first, and then you'll be able to start burning off the fat easily, right? So that's important, that most people who are overweight of any kind, they don't feel good. And so I want you to feel good first. And there is a way, and actually, let me just bring us to this slide too, Seth, because slide 56, my producer's texting me which one so that we can make it easier here in production. But we've got a couple of them I want to show. Slide 56, and that's a picture of me. Had my breast implants back then, they almost killed me. That's why my movies, or my book is called Killer
Gosh,
Breasts.
what were
So
you,
if
like,
you ladies are out
5%
there,
body fat? Like, that's incredible.
yeah, I was it didn't really feel like it, but I was a professional soccer player, professional bodybuilder. So I've been in the biohacking space since I was 17 years old. So I've done a lot of this. How can I optimize my body to perform the best without being super dangerous? At one point in my life, when I was bodybuilding, I tried the unhealthy human growth hormone, the exogenous kind, right? That was just strictly human growth hormone, rather than taking something like CJC 1295 and ipamorelin. My patients that take this are like, you've got to be kidding me, how easy this is to build muscle. And the more muscle that you have, the more that you are burning fat in a rested state. So this is what CJC ipamorelin looks like. This is a human growth hormone secretagogue. And what that does is it essentially tells your body, make more human growth hormone. And what happens is human growth hormone is best to take. These type of peptides are good to take before you go to sleep, because now my patients are going, wow, I'm sleeping at night again. And if you're not sleeping, you can't do anything well, right? So what I see with a lot of my patients, especially my female patients and also my male patients, is if your testosterone is so low, like for males, if you're under 500, no wonder why you don't have a sex drive, or no wonder why you're not building muscle. No wonder why you're craving these unhealthy, toxic foods. And for women too, we need testosterone. And so this is what can help the body go, oh yeah, okay, I remember how to do this and this and this and this. And human growth hormone is so much more than just hormones. It's fixing the metabolism as well. And when you can rest and digest and repair when you're sleeping, then your body's losing weight while you're at a rested sleeping state. 98% of your human growth hormones and your fat burning happens at night when you sleep, but most people aren't sleeping well. So that's what's also very important too. And we have a couple of things I wanted to share. Like one of our patients, slide 81 and 82.
America is under siege. You've seen the headlines: terror attacks, chaos, and whispers of coordinated threats. Intelligence insiders and whistleblowers are sounding the alarm. For years, the border has been wide open, allowing dangerous groups of terrorists, cartels, even foreign soldiers to infiltrate our nation. The deep state doesn't want you prepared. And even with Trump coming back in charge, smooth sailing certainly is not guaranteed. Experts are warning us disruptions are coming, chaos is just around the corner. Think about it. What would you do if another pandemic hits? Or if our grid goes dark? Or if coordinated attacks erupt across our country overnight? Right now is the time to act while you still can. Your family's survival depends on having a secure food supply. That is why Heaven's Harvest exists. Heaven's Harvest offers the highest quality, long term, storable food, delicious, nutritious, and designed to last up to 25 years. Imagine the peace of mind knowing that you have 3, 6, or even 12 months of food ready for any emergency. Don't wait for the shelves to go empty or for the next attack to catch you off guard. Take control now. Go to heavensharvest.com and secure your supply. Use promo code SETH, that's SETH, for an exclusive 15% discount on your entire order. Picture this: your family is safe, secure, and well fed while chaos unfolds outside. That security starts today. Heaven's Harvest, because tomorrow isn't promised. Protect your family by preparing today. Visit heavensharvest.com right now and use promo code SETH to save 15% off. Don't wait until it's too late. Your family is depending on you.
One of our women patients who just recently came to us, and she kind of had a similar story as what you were saying too, Seth. Like, there's this last bit of weight that I haven't been able to lose. And I've tried so many things and I haven't been able to figure it out. And I've tried all the different diets. I've tried the juice cleanses. She even tried my parasite cleanses, a lot of different hormone. I have a lot of different programs that are out there and people say I've tried them, but I'm not 100% where I want to be. And when we got her on just a few peptides, it was CJC epimorelin that I just showed you guys. It's a human growth hormone secretagogue. Again, reminding your own body to make human growth hormone again, and which is great. So it's cell signaling. You can do this again. Remember, we did this when we were younger. That's why we feel so good. We don't really gain weight as much when we're kids until you become a teenager, like your story, Seth. And she said, it's my second week and it's freaking incredible. My entire body composition has shifted. I'm totally shocked. My body was holding on to fat, and I'll just insert this, for 2+ years. And since the peptides, it's crazy the amount of definition my body's having. The fat is just melting off and I could not be happier. These are her exact words too. We didn't like create this. She left me a message and I was in tears listening and she was in tears saying it out loud. She said, I also started the bowel mover, which also helps too, as a supplement we use to help get rid of a lot of the toxic waste in the bowels. This is why so many people too, by the way, who are on Ozempic have major, major side effects, symptoms, and death, or losing their eyesight. They go blind in one eye because their drainage pathways are not open. So this is what we do with our patients. It's not just, hey, just go take a Ozempic, or don't even just take a peptide. We have to make sure that when the body is being asked to remove waste, there's a trash bin. There is guys on the street that will come take the trash from the side of the street and put it and take it away. Most people do not have that. So there are things that I want to help people understand, that there's foundations. In order to lose weight, we have to make sure your drainage pathways are open, that your body has the energy, because it takes energy to lose weight, right? And to clear it out of the body, just like it takes energy to clean your house, right? So she said, I want to give my colon a little hug. That's my praise to you. The peptides, the work that you do, the knowledge that you spread. I'm just so grateful to you that I'm very excited for the next steps. Thank you so much, Dr. Diane. You're amazing. And I so appreciate you. And the other thing that she said, Seth, that I know that you and your wife and everybody who's a parent out there will really appreciate. And this is where I started crying, hearing her testimony, which we get so many of these every day, every week. She said, I sat down at the dinner table and my husband has been very stressed out with his work. He's in real estate. And she said, we all sat down as a family to eat dinner, which is very rare these days. And she said, I realized I heard something that I hadn't heard for a long time. And they probably always were giggling, but I heard my daughters giggling and laughing, and it touched my heart. And I had tears in my eyes. And my husband was more present. And she said, I believe that that's because of the oxytocin that we're taking. And oxytocin is what we all naturally make, but over time, because of all the stress, stop producing as much of. Oxytocin is our love hormone, it's our cuddle hormone. It is the hormone that our body makes the most of when we have sex, when we have an orgasm, when we make a baby, we have a baby, we're holding each other, when we're
Even
looking pets
nursing.
in the eye.
I know that
For
nursing
nursing
is
and
one of the big
breastfeeding.
ones. Yeah, because I see it with our 1-year-old who's still a prolific nurser, and she'll
Yeah,
she whatever reason she'll like open a drawer, she'll close a drawer and not take her fingers out, so she's freaking out, and it's like within 10 seconds of the breast milk, she's just calm, and it's almost it's like heroin. It's just like some sort of powerful drug, and she's just like, oh, life is good, and then she's happy again. But it's the
yeah.
oxytocin, and I know that my wife gets it also because I see her response, and it goes both ways.
Yes, yes. Oxytocin is so beautiful and it's so powerful. And it's also the hormone that regulates all of our other hormones. And so it's the master hormone orchestrator. And for my patients, I can say again, we can take them in capsule form, we can take peptides, we can take them intranasally, which is the second most effective way. And the most effective way is to inject it with these little teeny tiny insulin needles that you barely feel, and you inject it in some fat pockets. And I make it very, very easy for people. We have a ministry membership group where we meet once a week, and you have me in your corner, so you don't have to go see a doctor, drive in to see a doctor, pay a lot of money to have them prescribe it, inject it. No, you can have it shipped to your home in Canada and the United States, and you do it yourself. So this one is oxytocin, and it's an intranasal, and you just spray like one in each nostril, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm not really afraid of much anymore. I'm kind of in love with my life. I'm not responding to the fear porn anymore. Or, I actually want to give somebody a hug, or I don't hate as much, or my past is no longer being carried, and the weight of my past is on my shoulders, and I have back pain because of the weight of my past. And oxytocin is like, if I could put that in if I could have those be put into instead of the aerosol that's being sprayed in our sky, why don't we make it just rain oxytocin,
Gosh,
instead of
imagine if they did
aluminum?
that. Imagine if those trails up there were actually oxytocin, and you walk outside and you're like, "What a beautiful day!" And look at this little flower, and it'd be
We can. I mean, that's the cool thing, is that we can, but this is your internal airplane, right?
yeah.
And this is just one example, right? This is one example of how we can literally change our mind, the chemistry of our mind. And when we can change it top down, we can change it everywhere. So that's oxytocin. And when we're taking oxytocin in combination of things that help our body make more human growth hormone, you can literally take something like Sloop. There's one of the ones, oh, it's downstairs in my fridge. Sloop is one, 5-amino and 1-MQ. I'm speaking a weird language. It sounds cryptic, you guys, but again, this is just an intro to it. But Sloop, there are tons of studies on all of these things. And I'll pull up one more slide here so that you guys can understand how long peptides have been around. But Sloop is one of the ones that are many of our patients. I mean, it's been in such demand that when Sarah and I did that one show, we pretty much tanked the supply. And it's coming back. We have it coming back. But Sloop is one of the ones that in trials, and they've looked at these studies, and they found that in 1 month, mice lost 12% of their total body weight. 1 month. So I have patients who come into our ministry membership group, and I'm like, I can see it in everybody's faces, Seth. I can see changes, very small ones. And I go, you look different. What did you do? And they're like, oh, I've been on Sloop, or I've been taking retatrutide, or 5-amino, or I've been taking CJC, epamorelin. I've been gaining muscle mass. I've been working on building my muscles so that I feel strong. And that's a confidence booster in and of itself. If you can feel strong, then you can work out again. That is the number one antidepressant, or the anti-anxiety. We can produce our own neurotransmitters by exercising, but most people are not. This is why we need to meet you where you're at, because you don't have enough energy. You don't have the strength. You don't have the drive. When we bring that back in the brain, you can bring it back in the body again. So I want to show slide number 11. We've been doing a lot of double numbers today, which is kind of
I don't know,
fun.
33, 11. Yeah. Perfect.
44, yeah. So this is a really important question, because there's so many people are like, oh yeah, but Diane, there's, this is snake venom, this is lizard venom. It's not. And so we can get into that too. I know we're starting to wrap up. But I want you to see this too, because people are like, oh, peptides are new. There's no long-term studies. There are actually. What's really beautiful I have a lot of people who come to me and they have herpes and they're like, oh, I have to take a cyclovir. I have a whole story on that. I won't get into it, but I was misdiagnosed. I had a horror story on this. I was improperly diagnosed and I was told I need to take a cyclovir for the rest of my life. I was told I need to take antibiotics for the rest of my life for my urinary tract infections. You guys, this is what kills us. Antibiotics is anti-life. Okay. So what we can do is, instead of taking these medications, we can learn that there are actually protein amino acids in these peptides. So one very important one that we can use actually has lysine in it that helps to support herpes infections and stops them in their tracks. So I help people with this all day long too. So the most commonly used peptides and clinical use outcomes that we've seen in our timelines, because people are like, they haven't been around for a long time, is BPC is one that most people have heard of. And this is how I get people back very quickly after surgery. I prepare them for surgery, help get rid of the scar tissue after any kind of surgery or injury. I work with high performance athletes or CEOs or women who just had babies, who just delivered. So BPC is extremely powerful. It's gut healing, tissue repair, joint regeneration. They've been using it since the 1990s in preclinical trials. TB500 is thymosin beta-4. We're using this now as a growth hormone, and it stimulates growth hormone. It's very anti-aging. It's the anti-inflammatory. It's like, instead of taking ibuprofen, let's try some TB500. People are like, I don't need the over-the-counters anymore. Ibuprofen, by the way, is fluoride based and is known to rupture Achilles tendons, and that happened to me. So we're literally taking over the counters that are filled with heavy metals, not even realizing that the very things that we're using to get rid of inflammation are actually degrading and destroying our tissues, like our tendons and our ligaments, right? It's a very short-term benefit for a long-term injury or some sort of loss. So we also have, I just talked about the CJC 1295, the human growth hormone secretagogues. It's for fat loss, muscle gain. They've been around from the mid 2000s. Ipamorelin, Sermorelin. These are also the same ones I was just talking about too. Human growth hormone stimulators, anti-aging, skin repair, hair growth, many things that people are looking for today, going to med spa, spending thousands and thousands of dollars thinking that you need to get Botox or fillers or anything that's going to reduce your wrinkles. I can show you protocols for days where you could be your own med spa. It's so beautiful. You use, like I said, copper peptides, this little blue one. And you could use red light therapy. You can use dermal rolling with it. There's all these combinations that are so simple to do at home. I have people who get injuries, infections, and I will just take some copper peptides and put it together with some DMSO, apply it topically, and they're like, whoa, overnight, literally, it's gone. Are you serious? Overnight. So these are beautiful peptides that are very fast acting, and you could use them topically too. Like I just mentioned, if your kid has an injury or is bleeding, you can use these things over time just to get rid of it. So you also don't have scarring. There's a lot of these that I'll just say in here, early 2000s, late 1990s, you can see on here. One of the ones that I like to use with patients that have sleep issues, or I want to get them off of benzos or antidepressants or anything that's really mind altering medications, we get them off very successfully with something called the delta sleep inducing peptides called DSIP. And it works with cortisol modulation. It helps calm the nervous system. It allows you to feel like you actually do want to fall asleep rather than the fight or flight. And it was developed in Russia in the 1990s. So I could go on and on about these things, but gut health, inflammation, LL37 is the last one I wanted to make sure I mentioned too. With a lot of my patients who have, air quotes, been on antibiotics forever, with like long term, I work with Lyme patients, Lyme disease, very prevalent. They'll be on 1, 2, 3 antibiotics at a time for 3 years, and it doesn't do anything to treat the Lyme. It just kills the good bugs in the body. Lyme is actually a parasite. We have to go after the parasite. We also have to work with the immune system, which has then been completely degraded. That's what thymosin does. You have your thymus gland, and after the age of 2, it starts to decrease, releasing your thymosin, different types of thymosin peptides. So we bring that back and your immune system comes back. So gone are the days where you have to take a ton of zinc and a ton of N-acetylcysteine. You could take those things, but when we could activate your own immune system, then you don't really need these things exogenously anymore. And LL37 is one that I work with a lot of women. A lot of people have UTIs. We use it internally. I teach them how to make their own formulas. And then that way you don't need to really go get the antibiotics for even topical reasons or internal reasons and destroy a lot of your good bugs. I'm seeing on my stool tests, Seth, for my patients, what's really sad and scary is that I'm seeing a complete annihilation of the good bugs that are designed to protect us, to perform certain healthy activities. And once you take antibiotics for this long, a lot of these good bugs, the good healthy bugs, which is about 80% of our gut, they're gone for life. We're literally creating dinosaurs out of the healthy, good flora. Glyphosate does that. So these antibiotics that are also in our food, glyphosate is an antibiotic. So we're eating gluten and we're literally taking antibiotics every day. It's destroying our healthy microbes. And no wonder why we're so sick as a nation with cancer, autoimmune disease. It's not just a body's response that you are destined to go need chemo and radiation for. It's a body's call, scream to say, I need some tools down here so I could self-heal. And it's simply a symptom of a toxic body that has been completely torn apart from toxins that you can repair and rectify with peptides at home on your own as your own best doctor with very minimal side effects.
So one big question that I have, actually, I've got a few questions, but the big
Yeah,
one is that with so many things that we put in our body externally, the one worry I always have is, do we become dependent on these things, right? Like they'll say, okay, well, if you use, let's say, even using something, so some people, they're fans of marijuana, right? And they say, okay, that
right.
there's no problem, and it's okay, and that no one's ever died from it. But then if you look into it, it's like, okay, but your body becomes dependent on that, and you go a year later, that guy who hasn't smoked in 2 days and he's depressed looking. And it's like, well, because his body was reliant on whatever's coming in through the drug usage, and his body became dependent on that. And so, with any of these peptides, is it the case that you develop a dependency on it? Or I know you use the analogy of the training wheels, or is it more so that you just use them to teach your body how to create these peptides again, and you take them off, and your body then is able to functionally do that, and then not need the external peptides, like even like the growth hormone, for instance? Is it something that, say you want to keep building muscle and get really strong, if you take it for a couple of months, you see this a lot of muscle growth. If you stop taking it, do you reset back to that baseline, or is your body then from then on maybe not the same as having the external coming in, but is your body that much better at it? Like, does that question make sense?
Absolutely does. And it's a very valid question. And I want you all to be asking questions like this. I love that the questions that we have to ask are, am I in this for life? I mean, is this a lifelong relationship and how much is this going to cost? Right? Because peptides are not super cheap. They're not like a $10 bottle of zinc that you could buy at Costco. That's like a 3-month supply. But of course, those are really low quality anyway. It's just an example. Peptides are designed to, again, reawaken and remind and remember the body's mechanisms that God made us in this beautiful, I mean, we're just like the supercomputer. The way that I approach peptides with patients is we use them in cycles and or as necessary. Some of these peptides can be used forever, and because our body makes them, right? Some of them are designed to be on and off and cycled. So there's another analogy, there's another actual comparison, which when we're seeing a lot of people who get off of, like, let's say Ozempic, I'm just going to use that one again. I hate that they stole our, like, all of our songs from our past and made it these jingles that get people all thinking positive about it with the drug commercials. They're so horrible. And 8 to 10% of the population at this point are on those, not those not the peptides, but on GLP-1s prescribed by big pharma. That's a large percent of the population. And my take on it is that you can do the healthier versions of them and not have all these side effects and not need to take them for life and cycle off without the weight gain. So you're going to go backwards. So here's the problem that I have. And here's what, as a clinician, it's so important. I'm not going to be the person that will ever say, oh, go take one thing. I'm not the one pill pusher. I'm the reality maker, and I want you to retain your results for the rest of your life. That's the difference. And I know a lot of doctors who are very, very unhappy with being an MD at this point because they're facing the reality that they've been prescribing Ozempic, or whatever it is, right? And all of this time and all this money that they've invested in becoming a doctor with the efforts to help people, they're seeing that they're hurting people. And so they're at this place where they want to learn how to do something different. They're coming here and they're asking me, Diane, how do I use peptides? How do I use peptides in my practice? And they're pivoting away because what's happening with Ozempic, this is where people get addicted. because they have to be on it for life. And if you've heard of Casey Means talk, he's talking about how with children, they want to get children, school children that are just starting to go into school at the age of 5, 6, 12. They want 50% of the children to be on Ozempic and other GLP-1s for life. If that's not enough to really piss you off and understand what the real intentions are here, then I don't know what will wake you up, because that is disgusting. That is demonic to tell, okay, we want children to be on these medications. Why not teach them how to eat healthier, you know? And the reason why people are addicted to Ozempic now and they're not getting off is because after 3 months, if you do try to get off of them, most people will rebound and gain 20 to 30% weight back. So in that lane, yes, they are actually designed by Big Pharma to get you on the toxic treadmill of prescriptions and poisons for the rest of your life. Why? Because they don't teach you the fundamentals and the foundations. Most people, a third of the population that are on Ozempic, they get super sick, nauseous, and they vomit within the first month. And a third of them get off of those medications within 3 months. And then they gain all the weight back. Then they've also lost their muscle mass, because why? The doctor who is prescribing these GLP-1s, the Wegovy, the Mounjaro, the Ozempic, they're not talking about it's the importance of you need to work out, you need to exercise, you need to throw some weights around, or whatever it is, resistance training, getting some, and you know what, classes are so fun, get into pickleball. You know, people are actually drinking less now and doing pickleball, which is what we showed that slide earlier. It's amazing. People are finding more pleasure and connection. And that's also where oxytocin comes in too. Sunshine, being outside, whatever. But what we're finding is that people who are actually gaining muscle with the right approach, with the peptides we're talking about today, like the retatrutide, on top of that, do a CJC epimuralin. Now you've got those together. I say, don't do one without the other. Now get your body some energy too, so that your body has the energy to burn fat. Make sure your drainage pathways are open so that when your body starts burning fat very quickly, the fat has a place to leave. The reason why people are getting sick and nauseous from Ozempic is because they're not being taught to focus on the exit doors. So when the fat is being released, it has a way out. The body will have to vomit.
Because that
This
fat's
looks horrible.
full of
Zombie apocalypse.
toxins, right? So if you
Yes.
get people that lose weight too quickly can like I've even heard stories of people that get really really sick, even eventually die of the toxicity coming in, right? Because of all that. Because am I correct in understanding that fat is one of the body's mechanisms of storing toxins, kind of like a tumor, right? It is the body's natural mechanism of isolating the bad thing from you and removing it from your body. Whereas fat is doing that, right? It's because look at my childhood. Why was I weighed 250 by 15 years old? It's like, well, my mom did a lot of home cooking, but no one knew about the stuff that we know now, right? So we were still eating, I can't believe it's not butter. I lived next
Right.
to a farm field that was sprayed all the time. Like we lived in a countryside with a huge field behind us that was doing GMO corn, GMO soybeans being sprayed all the time. I grew up eating Welch's grape juice and fruit juice full of high fructose corn syrup. So I look at all this stuff, not to mention that, I was vaccinated as a kid. No one knew about the dangers of vaccines in the 80s, right? So all of this, I think that it makes sense, is like, why is it that I've got this stubborn fat I can't get rid of? Well, it's full of toxins and that the language is all screwed up from the things that
Yeah.
were done to me growing up in this poisonous modern world.
You were cast, as we all have been, under a spell with the way that we've been taught to spell out the words that we use. And now we can all undo that with shows like this, to realize that we have been fattened up like cows. We've been tricked. Our brains have been tricked and hacked and hijacked. That, what's his name says we're hackable humans. Well, you know what? We are. And you can hack yourself and not let them hack you. And I want to show a couple slides too of some of these headline news articles showing that Ozempic has taken people's lives. I mean, this is one of this and Botox and vaccines are the 3 fastest growing medications that are killing people. I mean, we don't need Botox to kill or freeze your nerves either. I mean, that was part of my journey. You could use copper peptides to everybody who's looking at me going, what have you been doing? Why is your skin so, you look 5 years younger in like a couple of months? And I'm like, peptides for the win, baby. And I'm also not eating. Oh, I want to make a point here too, Seth. This is really important for you guys to understand. Take some notes, okay, you guys? So, especially with children, and you just reminded me, Seth, so thank you. And then we'll go to slide 42, okay? The number one reason why we gain weight, and the number one reason why it's hard to undo that is, and I look at everything from a perspective as a clinician, as what's blocking our health, what's blocking our beauty, what's blocking our energy, like what's draining it, right? And then what's building it, what could help gain it. So it's the block and the drain, and it's the build and the gain. The number one thing that prevents our body's ability to actually utilize our own self-created, what's called GLP-1s, or glucagon-like peptide proteins. They're mostly made in the gut. What blocks that in the body, in the gut, is high fructose corn syrup and genetically modified organisms and seed oils. So we noticed a huge spike in obesity when we introduced high fructose corn syrup, and then in the 1996 when we introduced genetically modified organisms. And that is, corn is one of the top GMOs. And so we've been genetically modified for a very long time. So when we look at all these fake foods, they turn off your body's ability to not only make the GLP-1s, but your brain's ability to receive them, your cell's ability to understand, hey, we're full down here. We don't need any more. So your body just keeps eating because the signals to we're full are not happening. So when we take them in a GLP-1 form, like the retatrutide, and I teach you guys how to do this, like, hey, I got my peptides, now what? It comes in a vial, and you're like, now what do I do? I've got videos on how to make it really easy and how to notice exactly what you need, how to stack them with other things depending on what your goals are, depending on your health history, what surgeries you've had, what organs that you've had removed, what your hormones look like. It's okay to want to have more beautiful hair, you guys, okay? It's okay to be vain in this crazy world, right? So what your goals are heard here. And the high fructose corn syrup, to your childhood's point, Seth, when our kids are eating high fructose corn syrup, they're going to get obese very quickly. And they're going to need to become dependent on GLP-1s forever. Then you're going to be told that you need Ozempic, that you need some insulin. No, you don't. Your kids won't even crave it anymore if we could regulate their own GLP-1s, because kids take this stuff too. And kids get their life back. But we also have to first ask, well, what am I feeding my kids? Why are they obese in the first place? So that's the most important thing to understand about how do we even get here? How do we get here to need these GLP-1s where they're so therapeutic, where people are seeing benefits, but how can we do it in a way where, and we can start getting to the slides whenever you're ready, you might have some commentary after this, Seth. But how do we get to this place where we don't necessarily need so many peptides anymore because we're not giving our body deficiencies where they can't communicate anymore? It's like when you eat high fructose corn syrup, you're essentially putting your cells on airplane mode. You're putting your brain on airplane mode. You can't text each other, right?
That's
So
crazy.
once we get your body adjusted to your pleasure centers no longer deriving pleasure from the poisons of our present life, and that would be any addiction, Seth, and all of my friends listening, that would be OnlyFans and porn. I mean, it's tearing families apart, or food or alcohol or weed or medications. I'm not saying that, I'm not here to judge, because I just like you, hey, I drink wine too, or whatever. We all have our pleasure centers, but your pleasure centers are more internal, and they're more communicative. They're more with each other. They're more with nature. You have different cravings again. That's why I call them miracle molecules, because you're going, wait a minute. I just noticed, I hear this all the time from patients. I just noticed that the thing that I used to eat all the time and crave before I went to bed is full. I haven't even opened it. I haven't even gone in for more. And they're like, wow, I didn't realize how good that I could feel until I did, because of how bad I was feeling before, how desperate I was for these things, how powerless I was to these things. And that's what I mean by self-empowerment. You are no longer powerless to the things that you crave, like the high fructose corn syrup, that they are creating flavors and to get you addicted to, so that you then need the Ozempic. So we get you to the point where you don't need to take these peptides for life. They're resets, and then you get to determine based on your lifestyle. If you go back and eat high fructose corn syrup again and you start eating junk again, yeah, you're going to probably need peptides again. So everybody, it depends. You use them like tools when you need them, as you need them.
It makes perfect sense. And so, what I guess where my mind is going is like I'm thinking, looking at the list. I'm like, okay, check that one off, check that one off, right? So, um, how do we like? I'm asking for myself as well, right? How do I go about and take the next steps with this? Because I this is it's different than some guests I've had. It's like, okay, here's the product we talked about. You buy it. It's self-explanatory, right? This is more involved. It's more detailed. There
Mhm.
are multiple options. There's different ways of taking it. As you mentioned, if someone had, say, they've had their thyroid taken out, then that might affect how they, approach some aspect of this. So, like, what are the steps? Like, if I'm asking, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm sold on it, which I am, right? I'm excited about this. What are the next steps, and how does that work?
Yeah, yeah, good question. So, and I do want you guys to take action. So, and if you want to, Seth, before we stop today too, I want to make sure we cover whenever I do these shows, there's a lot of myths about these peptides being from venom of animals. And so I want to make sure that I ease your mind
Yeah,
about
let's
those
do that
things.
actually,
And
because I've done extensive interviews with
sure.
Dr. Artis about Gila Monster and all this stuff.
Yeah, so do you want to suss out kind of like your summary of what you've heard from him on what people are they have trepidation around because of how he shares it?
Yeah, so basically, yeah, I guess just addressing the idea that I've gotten is that, and I think I obviously know that Ozempic is different. That it's a creation of big pharma, but just the idea that basically what it is that it's the Gila Monster poisons, venom that are paralyzing part of your stomach, basically, and that it creates all these other issues. But that's the general idea that I have, and that's actually the reason why I stopped taking the one pet time I was taking before. Is I think I did an interview with Dr. Artis. I was like, oh no, like what am I doing? So I just kind of stopped cold turkey.
Right. Okay. So let's go to slide number 51 first. And what I want to share in that one, this one is really important because like you just said to your point, is there is a total difference between peptides from independent labs versus big pharma. And you guys, first of all, whenever I do anything, I am finding the most pure source possible. And I have tried them on myself for at least 3 months. But in this case, with peptides, I've been using them since I was 17 years old. So the ones that you would hear of from Big Pharma, they use different products, ingredients inside of each of them. So on the backbone of Ozempic and Zepbound, they have a lot of additives, but I'll start with this first one. They need to have stabilizers. Peptides need to have stabilizers. And the ones that you guys, if you purchased them from Seth, and we'll have some links for you guys and also coupon codes because peptides can be expensive. So we're going to give you guys an incentive 15% off to get started at least. And we'll talk about that next. So the ones that come from the ones that we use are they 100% have purification. They cite their sources. They have total studies and also if you go to the pages that for each individual product, you'll see certificate of analysis for them. So do not work with any peptide companies. It doesn't matter, to me who you guys use, but Seth has some, link for you guys with the coupon codes. And the only company that I know of that is citing the purification analysis is the company that we're talking about today, and I'll show you that in a minute. They come in powder form if you're going to be what's called reconstituting them. And in that case, there's less stabilizers and additives needed. When you buy them from Big Pharma, they come already reconstituted in a pen. They have the liquid, they have the powder, everything is just as it is, and you just inject and that's it. You don't have to do anything on your own. So people who want to be lazy, they'll do it that way too. Um, what we use is a sole stabilizer called hyaluronic acid, and it's a very, very small amount. It's naturally occurring in the body. It supports solubility and peptide stability. There's no synthetic preservatives or harsh excipients as compared to pharma brands like Ozempic and Zepbound. So big pharma products, they prioritize shelf stability over purity. And that's kind of like thinking about it like food that can sit in your pantry forever on the shelf. There's tons and tons of preservatives in it, right? Why isn't it a French fry still look like that I found under my chair in my car. It's because there's so many preservatives or additives, and you can eat it and it tastes the same, right? It's essentially the same concept. Versus if you found an orange underneath your car seat, of course it's going to have rotted. So ours are pure. They, after about 90 days, they start to decrease their potency, right? So we don't add a ton of preservatives to them. The big pharma brands contain additives like phenol and metacresol and disodium phosphate, which many of you have heard of, and propylene glycol. Propylene glycol is the single most toxic ingredient. It's a very tiny molecule that is also in things like benzodiazepines. What it does is it helps whatever medium chemical cross the blood-brain barrier so that it can get into the brain easier. And this is what's happening is we're seeing people with memory loss, brain inflammation, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, and it's because of this ingredient called propylene glycol, which unfortunately is also in why I like to talk about parasite cleanses too, because everybody wants to go to what is our number one top favorite pharmaceutical, Seth, when people get parasites?
Ivermectin.
Exactly. And so ivermectin contains some of these same toxic ingredients that can also cross the blood-brain barrier. So I always first try to do no harm. And you're going to see a lot of studies done on ivermectin. I'm not saying it's all bad, but we have to also ask these questions. What can we do first to do the least amount of harm? And so propylene glycol is one of those toxic ingredients that can actually make these pharmaceuticals more poisonous and more damaging to people. And so these are also used, these products from Big Pharma, for mass production, not for optimal human health. And then chronic exposure to these additives can be harmful. Again, people, they want them on them for life. They want to get, it's a subscription model. You know, when we're looking at Western medicine, it's a subscription model. They want you to be codependent on that drug for life so that you become a customer for life. I think we all kind of know that at this point. And so it's important for people who really want to work with practitioners who are researching these peptides, using them in their practice, have patients where they're using them, not just talking about it theoretically. And I do want to talk about the snake venom and that whole concept next. First, I want to come back to you, Seth, and see if there's any reflections that you had there.
No, this is helpful. This makes sense. I'm following along. It's helpful to have the slide here, because
Mhm.
it makes it easier just to take in the information.
Okay, great. So as far as the Gila, it's actually pronounced Gila monster. The Gila monster thing is a whole different concept. And with that, I have actually some other slides for that one too. I have a whole slideshow presentation for that because so many people ask me this question. Is, well, it's bad. It's literally venom and it's poisoning and freezing your gut lining or your whole body, right? And I would actually say that things like Botox are exactly in that same vein. So I've been talking about this for a long time, that Botox should not be used as the single greatest, most toxic substance used known to man, and yet we're using it for, you know, reducing pain. There's another way. There's another way. It kills nerves completely, contrary to what is happening with these peptides that we've been researching. So the Gila monster factor fear conversation is that there is an original molecule known as exendin 4, and it was studied in GLP-1 development. It was isolated from this Gila monster saliva. But this is just a starting point for science. They're not actually injecting venom into you. So this is the discernment that we all need to take a pause. That's not what's happening. Today's GLP-1 medications are fully synthetic. They're lab designed to mimic the hormone that your own body makes. So we make it too. They're not venom, they're bioengineered analogs. And so this is where also, okay, let's take a pause and go, is it the venom? How do we know that? Where does that come from? Has there been any peer-reviewed studies that classify GLP-1 analogs as actual venomous substances? And the answer is no. So even exendin 4 itself, it's not a toxin, it's a bioactive peptide with therapeutic effects. And as we were talking about in this whole show today, nature often provides templates, but the medicine is refined for human use. So there's studies on that I can give you that you can cite below if you want, Seth. Venom as medicine is actually really interesting, nature's pharmacy. So one of the things that I have done in my own life as well is, you know, you might say and might hear, might have heard Kennedy say that also psychedelics there's a lot of work on psychedelics that is being used today, psilocybin especially to curb depression. There was one study that showed that one single use of 3.5 grams, which is called the hero dose of psilocybin, 80% of people who were long-term smokers did not smoke cigarettes even a year after taking them. So psychedelics can actually be very powerful. And these are things that people would judge other people for using because of our programming, right? So venom actually has medicinal qualities. So there's combo, there's scorpion venom, and that was actually investigated for cancer therapy, but not necessarily the ways that we know it. Snake venom, bee venom. I actually have friends in Sedona who have been using bee venom to actually get rid of arthritis and allergy relief and autoimmune relief because it stimulates the immune system. So I've been seeing a lot of people, and I've been in practice for a long time to see like what's good, what's bad, what's poison, what's not, what's fake, what's fear, what's faith, what is the real science here. So we've taken the template and we've said, let's create that same thing that our body makes on our own, so that our body goes, oh, I can't even tell if that's mine or something else that came exogenously, but it's helping to save people's lives. And when you get people out of the obesity range, which 78% of the population over the age of 40 is in America, then we can get rid of the heart disease, the arthritis, the pain and inflammation in the joints where you have to have a knee repair, a hip replacement, a back. I just had back surgery myself, but I just did crazy pro soccer player things, and anyway, that's a different story. But when we can get rid of all of the inflammation from the obesity, from the excess weight gain, getting rid of the poisons, asking the body to do it on its own again, then we won't have 5 concurrent diseases that go along with obesity. So I want to get you guys away from the obesity epidemic. We want to help you lose weight the healthy way, and then you won't be dependent on these things anymore, and you won't need to crave it anymore. So I hope that makes sense. I mean, I could go on and I have slides for days on this, but this is just kind of a introductory to know it's not, but I understand why it's being talked about the way that it is.
No, it makes perfect sense. It's yeah. Well, what I find in general is that whenever we take one thing and we make it black and white, we're wrong. So it's
Exactly.
because everything is in the nuance. There's nothing. There's very few things that are actually black and white. But it's a way of, I find that we Hollywood has trained us to do this. Everything, it's either good or bad. It's X or Y, right? It's up or down. But there's a lot of gray area. So anyway, so that's helpful. That's helpful. So getting into, as we're wrapping up, what are if someone's watching this and they're like, okay, what do I do? Where do we walk? I know we've got our website link that's easy. It's sethpeptides.com. And also dianekaiser.com/Seth, but walk us through what the next steps are.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what's important because peptides have a little bit of a learning curve, but I have taken the complication out of it and made it really, really simple for everybody. So what I did and I have, like I mentioned earlier, I have a ministry, and every week we get together, and it's called our little ministry mastermind. And everybody comes in and asks questions. And when you're in the group, you don't have to pay doctors. You don't have to go in to see somebody to do this. It's just a whole group of us. There's hundreds of us in there that are all asking questions on how to improve, and people are getting really fast results. And it's truly a beautiful ministry. So inside of my VIP group, which you guys can get through Seth's link, just get in there and see if you like it. You could join for $1, and then it becomes less than $100 a month, and you get me for 2 hours every week. It's me that's in there. And you have a whole module. I created a whole course in there on getting started with peptides, which ones make the most sense depending on what goals that you have. Because a lot of people are out there going, I don't know, also know why I have so much weight gain. I'm going, well, you probably have mold in your house, or maybe you're eating moldy foods, or maybe you have breast implants. I have 10 different protocols in there for people who have different goals. Like if you're the kind of person who has a lot of joint pain, body pain, then I have one for that. If you're somebody who's going into surgery and you really want to prepare for that or heal after that, I've got one for that. If you're somebody who wants to build your beauty and your hair and you want to regenerate and you want some regenerative anti-aging advice, I have one for that. So I have little hacks for each one of them where you do like 4 of these together or 3 of them together. And yeah, that's the page, and that's what it's going to look like. So you'll see little coupon codes in there too. So if you come from Seth, then you guys get discounts on things inside of the VIP group as well. And so The things that most people are interested in is how do I lose weight? How do I take GLP-1s healthy? Because I do have some fear around it because of all the things I've been hearing, right? So I would say that there are things that you can get started with the peptides. And first of all, getting in the VIP group, you can see the things I'm recommending. You know, which things would I recommend for each specific goal? I mentioned this earlier. So if you're somebody who, and this is the most common one I have right now, Seth, I want to lose weight. Okay, I want to do it the healthy way. So again, I would take this and I would say, this is a great place to start is the retatrutide, and you combine that with a human growth hormone secretagogue. You would do that in combination, in addition with anything else that reduces inflammation in the body and also can give you concurrent energy. So there are other ones that I really like, and there's the thymosin alpha and there is BPC. That's a really beautiful combination of these four that will work to bring back your immune system. When you have an immune system again, you have the whole firefighter chief and the whole department up there going, okay, let's get rid of inflammation in these specific areas. Because sometimes it's not fat gain, sometimes it's just inflammation. And inflammation is coming about because the body is trying to signal to you, hey, we have a problem down here. So now we're actually sending the firefighters down to heal the tissues instead of just turning off the messenger. So there's so many of these things that are combined. And then again, it's like, well, okay, I got these things. Now what do I do? And it's very simple, and I simplify it just to kind of give you a preview. We have something called a reconstitution solution. This combined with a powder that comes in a vial. We combine these two. I show you exactly how to do it. And then I teach you exactly where to get these needles. There's different states that have different restrictions these days. So I'm always researching how to make it as simple as possible for you guys so you don't have to figure it out yourself. And then you get these tiny little insulin needles. You can't even barely feel it. Trust me, you guys, if you're afraid of needles, then I have other
I was
solutions too.
surprised when I did it, like, because it
Yeah,
was, because I put it into my, like, you kind of pinch your little bit of fat somewhere, and it
yeah.
was like, it's like, did it even go in? Like, it was surprising. You literally don't even feel it. Like, it's smaller than a sewing needle. It's this tiny little thing. It's almost like
Yeah.
acupuncture. That was the best way to describe it.
Yeah, and I do acupuncture a lot too, and it's even less than that. So, I mean, if you're afraid of needles too, I meet you where you're at, and I have other peptides. I don't have them in front of me, like I said, they're in my refrigerator. Keep everything in the fridge, but there's pills that you can take too. They're about half as effective. So if you want to save half of your money, then you would do the injections. Then there's the middle ground too, which is the intranasals, and those come with a kit. They come with a little sheet exactly how to reconstitute those. And then you feel like you're kind of in your little lab and it's kind of fun. But at first, just take it from me. Yes, it's overwhelming at first, but within a month, the way that I teach it in my master course and my VIP group, you will become very familiar and very comfortable with doing these things after a month. And then you're going to go, oh, which one can I do next? Which one can I do next? And then you're going to go, which one can I put my kids on? And which one can I give to my husband? And then all of a sudden your family starts coming together. So you could also just buy the peptides and not become a part of my mastermind group, but you're going to be very confused because you're like, well, now what do I do? How much do I inject? How much do I add to the vial? So I've made it really easy and very affordable so that you could DIY. And then if you're someone who's like, you know what, I just want to learn which ones are the best for me and have it all customized, you could also become a patient. You know, we ship labs to you, and it's not just blood testing. That's so old school. We actually look at the toxins in your body, what type of toxins that they are. Then we help you explore where they are in your environment so we can get rid of the arsonists, right? Like, let's stop just sending all these firefighters out. Let's who's starting the fires, right, of inflammation, and then look at too what's going on in your gut, what's going on in your hormones, because there's certain things that make peptides work better. And that's optimized hormones, like I talked about earlier too. So it's not just like, oh yeah, take some Synthroid because you're low on thyroid. Why is your thyroid low? Why? What's going on in your liver? So we could also take glutathione at home, and that's one of the ones that you can do at home, and you don't need to go take IVs from a med spa. You can just, this is the one I took before I went to work out today. Glutathione is the body's master antioxidant, and then that alone can help to reduce inflammation. So there's so many other ones that just your brain, you could fall in love with your life again. You get your memory back. There's one called NAD. Those are like $600 to inject if you go to someone. You can get it for $100. So there's just, you know, through these peptides, there's so many ways to make health affordable again and without doing it damaging your body. And I'm just so I'm more excited about this than I ever have been because of the mere miracles that we're seeing in people's lives. We can bring ourselves back from all the COVID nonsense. And in a world that is raining toxins all over us from our water and our food and our air, I don't really think that we have a choice anymore.
Oh,
I
I
think
I
this is,
agree. So the place to start is dianekaiser.com/Seth. And I'll put that link in the description. Also, Seth Peptides is a link that goes straight to the peptide online store. I do recommend, again, before I told you I was working with Mark Sherwood, and it was great because I could call him and ask him questions. He's like, okay, you got it. Here's what you do. Really helpful. I think, especially once you to learn the ropes of it.
right.
But so, and I think that I'm very excited about this. Like, I can't wait to actually, I can't wait to end the interview so I can ask you a few more questions personally. So it's not trying to rush you. Plus, we're going on an hour and a half anyway. But so dianekaiser.com/Seth. That to me is great because it's the guidance. And the thing is that people right now are spending so much money on so many treatments, and a lot of times these treatments are poisoning us. And so getting
Right.
access to someone like you that can guide, I mean, this is a way of really, in a lot of ways, bringing this kind of information to the masses. So it's not just only the uber wealthy have access to this, going and doing their $6,000 treatments and their their week long spa retreats for 20 grand. This is making it accessible. And we're going to do a lot. I can tell we'll do many more shows together. Maybe we'll do some webinars together because this is
Absolutely.
really exciting to me. And I see a lot too. I interview a lot of different doctors and I love this stuff, but this is like something that's clicked inside of me, and I can't wait to dive into this more. So as we're kind of closing up, do you have any final thoughts for the folks that are watching?
Hmm. I think it's really the first response for most people to this is fear, is how could I do this on my own? And I'm exhausted, I'm overwhelmed, I don't have time. But the number one thing that I hear from people when they do is, I don't know how I could have lived without peptides before. I am a totally different person. I see the world differently, and I can actually recall what I needed to do today. My body is shifted everywhere, and if I didn't do this, I don't know what road I would be headed down. My family had cancer or has cancer. We've had autoimmune disease in my family, depression, and this is my patients kind of collectively telling me how they feel about these things. I didn't want to become that. And I was starting to lose hope. I was depressed, and I've tried a lot of things, and I was on 15 supplements, and I realized that my body can only absorb the extent to how my cells are performing. And when you get that, you realize then we don't need to spend so much money on things like you just said, Seth, that aren't even getting to where they need to go if your cells aren't healthy. So this is us repairing you at the cellular level so that the foods that you eat, that the supplements you do want to take actually work better again, because you work better again. So no matter what it is, every disease, every symptom, every goal, every whatever it is, there's a peptide for that. And there's a combination to pull you out of whatever misery that you're in. So there's hope. It's right in front of you. So whenever you are ready and you want to get out of whatever situation that you're in, this can be it. So I'd love to see you guys in the group, and I'd love to support you in whatever journey that you have. Literally no questions too stupid, whatever people like to think. No disease is too large. We work with it all.
Well, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you, and I can't wait to just keep this going. So thank you for giving us your time. Again, this is wonderful speaking with you.
Thank you, Seth. Thank you everybody for being here and for having an open mind.
Of course, that's what I do. Numbers don't lie. The impact that Balance of Nature makes every single day is astounding. You can see the numbers for yourself at their website, balanceofnature.com. So listen to these stats concerning Balance of Nature's worldwide success. More than 1,000 success stories are reported each month. Hundreds of thousands of customers worldwide, millions of orders delivered each year, and billions, yes, billions of fruits and veggie supplements consumed by people who've decided to start living better. There's only one number missing. That's you. Do what I did and add yourself to these numbers. Start taking Balance of Nature's whole food supplements, like so many others around the world. Here's another number that should get your attention: 35%. Use my discount code SETH to get 35% off, plus free shipping and their money back guarantee. You must use my discount code SETH. So call them at 800-2468-751 and use the discount code SETH, or order online at balanceofnature.com. Use discount code SETH to get 35% off plus free shipping.